tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. You know I am. You know I'm here to do. I'm here to rock. Joining me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones and twos, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny, Johnny Woodard. How are you guys?
Woo!
Bro,
Smoke.
bro, dude, the might possibly be the greatest episode we've ever done. It is possible.
Yeah.
And we record two bangers today, and this one is insane. Insane. I can't believe how hard we went.
So much fun.
Jim Lee and Topher Gardner came on here and just blew our minds. Paradigm shifting episode. When you hear today's episode, you will understand 9/11, Paradise, California, and Hawaii.
School shootings as well.
School shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it is beyond anything. It is, I mean, dude, I was writing down notes. I mean, we get into laser development, atmosphere lens, resonant frequency, dissonance frequency, hyper. I mean, dude, charged particle beams. What?
Sun guns from the Nazis.
I mean, like, it's all there. This might be these guys are going for Mount Crushmore. They came in with a mission. They just met. They winked at each other and said, let's go full food bar. Guys, if you want to see me live, real quick, I had to do that intro. Real quick, go to SamTripoli.com. Check out my dates. I'm in Buffalo tomorrow night. Okay. Grab your tickets, 7:30, 10 p.m. Grab your tickets. Daddy's coming, guns a-blazing. All right? And then at the end of the month, I'm going to be in Pottstown, PA, headline Soul Joel's. And the following night, I am at Skankfest. I will add that to the calendar. Guys, anything else?
Nope. I think we rocking. Let's get to it.
Check out Broken Sin. It's a good show.
Get into it. Wow, guys, let's go.
Drink from the fountain.
All right, let's get into it. Very excited about this episode. It's going to be a follow-up to our episode with Greg Carlwood, breaking down everything that's going on in Maui. I just, again, today an episode drops with Conspiracy Social Club where Brian Callen loses it on me because he can't come to grips that there might be some darkness involved with this. I'm just asking questions, okay? I mean, if we're going to go to the streets over, something that happened in Minneapolis, I think we should be as passionate about what possibly could have happened in Maui, and I just don't see that kind of groundswell. And that to me is sad. So I'm going to keep asking the questions. My shows are going to keep asking questions. And we've got some experts here, okay, that are going to kind of bring in some statistics, which I'm very excited about. He's been on our show before. He's the guy who breaks down everything, weather, all that stuff. Very excited to have him on. Please welcome back to the show, Jim Lee. How are you, buddy?
Happen.
And for the first time, very excited to have him on. We're going to go from a structural point of view about, does this make any sense? Everybody always loves to do science until the science doesn't fit their narrative. But I'm very excited to have him on. Please, he's a builder, an inventor. He's a therapist, podcaster, and we'll get into his podcasting. Please welcome Topher Gardner. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm very happy to be on.
So real quick, we'll go to both of you guys. Topher, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
You can find me at topherhq.com. That's sort of the clearinghouse for all of my building and my podcasting. I'm kind of using that as my clearinghouse. I have two building companies right now, one in Missouri, which is coraldomes.com. That website's being built right now. And then I have my other building company in Costa Rica, which is Tico Dome. And I specialize in dome shapes or any type of structure that biomimics. And I got into biomimicry about 16, 17 years ago when I started studying Walter Russell and Victor Schauberger. And they were talking about the inefficiency of essentially box buildings. And this kind of reminded me of growing up with my father, because my dad built commercial skyscrapers in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And he would always tell me, because of the hurricanes in Florida, that the boxes that people would build were not, it wasn't good for hurricanes. And so I essentially fell in love with domes, after Hurricane Andrew, because Hurricane Andrew decimated our area of Florida. And there were all these things that came out at that time about dome homes and curvature. And so when I had a chance to start building for myself, I really focused on structures that could handle both shear strength from earthquakes, because I lived in an earthquake zone, and also deal with buildings that could handle wind and storms. And as of the last 10 years, I've also focused on buildings that can shield from electromagnetic radiation. Because a lot of my clients I've had the opportunity to build for a bunch of CEOs that have had, I would say, no real constraint when it comes to what type of structure that they want for themselves and how to shield themselves from the different forms of radiation that are being projected. And so I started a company called BioCharisma, where I make biochar, which is pyrolyzed carbon, and I infuse that into the concrete of the structures that I build. And that reflects all different types of EMF. And so I'm working with a couple of different scientists right now how to ground out low E windows and essentially make a dome home an asymmetric Faraday cage that nothing can penetrate it. And you don't have to worry about fires. You don't have to worry about any of this extra, I guess you would say, different dalliances of radiation that are being projected at us all the time.
I am all about this, man.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you something. Within the dome, is there like rooms and is it inside? Does it look like a regular house?
No, it doesn't, because it's round. So when you go, like if you go to the homepage of Topher HQ, and you just scroll down, you can see like right beside coral domes. That's a picture of one of the bedrooms. Yeah, right there. That's perfect. So the bedroom is rounded. That's a vaulted bedroom. The ceiling on that particular bedroom is about 16 feet tall. And the way I build all my buildings is the dome is in the very center, and then we work out in a radial pattern. So you can have rooms that do have square edges, but you will always have one room that has at least the curvature on one of the walls. And so this way you build out like a hub on a tire. The center is always round. And then as you go out, you can put square extensions or vaulted extensions. You can do whatever you want. But the majority of my clients that I build for, we end up building houses that look like a torus shell. So it's a round structure overall, like the private homes. And then inside we'll square certain edges. You always want to give a room at least one, 90-degree vertice, just because most furniture is made that way. But especially in Costa Rica, we have a full carpentry company that makes all custom furniture for these round buildings.
Wow. So would you, let's say I have two children. I'd be a family of four. right? Would I have just one big dome, or would I have multiple domes that would equal a house?
Well, this is kind of funny. I don't actually want to live in the dome aesthetic.
Okay.
Like,
These
so
are
my
like,
wife and
this is
I,
for like if shit hits the fan.
yeah, like I love the dome. Like I built the Tico Dome, which stands for Tropical Eco Dome. That's a smaller structure. That's really, it's like a low cost unit that it has expandability. It's modular. For the larger homes that I build, they're usually cylindrical. And then on the site too, you can see where I put reciprocal roofs. So like the house I'm building in Missouri, it's going to be a 2-story house that's going to look like a wedding cake. So it has all the curvature so that can handle wind shear, and it's built with super adobe and ferro cement. And I'm also going to do the aircrete with the biochar. But the roof that I do it looks like a huge flower. They're essentially a rounded reciprocal roof, which is if you were to take a teepee and flatten a teepee out, but had instead of, just 3 or 4 main posts to make the teepee, like we'll have 24. And then that flares out, and then you can see, you get the convex curvature, because all the masons of renown, they always used vaults and arches to give strength to their buildings.
Damn.
And so for me to handle wind shear, to handle any type of adverse weather effect, I vault everything. I put arches and curves on everything, because if you were to take exactly like that's a private home I built, that's about 2,000 square feet under roof. That's actually the world's first reciprocal dormer. That's a reciprocal roof with a dormer on it. So that entire house, the second story, has a mezzanine. So it has like a 600 square foot mezzanine on the second story. And then downstairs, there's 2.5 bedrooms with bathrooms.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like a 2,000 square foot house.
Wow.
And yeah, that house that was a really fun project.
Well, I'm interested in all that. Now, Jim, you were on the show before. So for those who may not be familiar with your last appearance, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Sure. My name is Jim Lee. I'm from Sumter, South Carolina. So I bring the Southern perspective on topics ranging from geoengineering, weather modification, space weather control. Obviously, we're going to get into directed energy weapons, but I mainly focus on pollution, privacy, and propaganda. I do not live in a dome home. In fact, I live in the finest double wide the Illuminati ever bought. And it did withstand Hurricane Hugo, so I believe it's been battle tested. And other than that, you can find me at climateviewer.com. I do all my own graphics. I do my web design. I do my videos, my research. I'm a one-man show, and I'm, self-taught. I'm just a nerd, and I really don't pull punches when talking about topics, because a lot of people, they want to say what people want to hear, a lot of times. And I just made a video this Sunday at Climate Viewer on YouTube called Backdraft: Maui Fires, Facts and Fiction. And let's just say it's a 50-50 response to either you sold your freaking soul, or thank God somebody's got a brain. So we'll see how that flies tonight. But yeah, I've been cited in over 200 peer-reviewed journals for my research on weather modification, the history of weather control, and that's my specialty. But hey, I can wear a tinfoil hat with the best of them.
Well, I love it, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say, because I'm really all about, I'm not, my whole thing with this show isn't like, let's find the conspiracy in it and amplify it. I want to go, what is really happening? That's my whole thing. And, we've had some very interesting conversations here, and, we are tinfoil hats. So we do take what we call spiritual skepticism of the official narrative, and that's really what we're all about. I don't know where you guys want to talk, where you guys want to start, but maybe we can get into okay, Jim, what do you think happened? And we'll go from there. We'll get into structurally how this is possible and all that stuff. But where do you want to begin?
The biggest red flag that I see out of this entire thing, just from a macro perspective, is that there was a high pressure ridge that covered the Atlantic Ocean from the Japanese peninsula all the way to LA.
Yeah.
If you don't, okay, so I think I can see Topher already smiling. When you look at this high pressure dome and you realize the magnitude and size of it, that's what altered the wind direction. That's what, that between that and something called the fun effect of how wind travels over mountains and it accelerates down, you basically created a bellows. As far as the directed energy weapons, I think it's almost a secondary, if not moot point, because I'm pretty sure there's crackheads in Hawaii, and I could pay a crackhead $5 to get a gas can and a Bic lighter, and I'm pretty sure he's armed with the Bic lighter, so that won't be necessary. I can just hand him the gas can and a couple crack rocks and say, "Go at it, boy! It's 90-mile-an-hour winds. Let's burn this motherfucker to the ground. We're golden." So when you look at it from a macro perspective, what I see is Chinese weather modification activities on the Himalayan mountains. One more than 100,000 cloud seeding generators across the Himalayan mountains. The Chinese Sky River project to steer atmospheric rivers to the northwest part of China. China is disrupting worldwide weather. We have this an abnormally large high pressure dome that caused the winds to come over the mountains. Even, countless Instagram videos, TikTok, Twitter, I'm watching locals going, the wind never comes from that direction.
Whoa.
So what caused that was that high pressure dome and Hurricane Dora skirting below, in combination with the fact that all international shipping and international flights are routed through that same area where the high pressure dome was currently located.
Mm-hmm.
And we could speculate whether it's just a happy accident or whether it was intentional weather manipulation. But either way, that is what caused the winds that burnt that town to the ground.
Yeah.
So what you're saying here is that whether it's a happy accident or an unhappy accident, it could just have been a byproduct of the Chinese manipulating Earth's weather.
So there's this thing called the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
And the saying goes something like this: does a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil affect tornadoes in Texas? And there's a gentleman by the name of Dr. James Roger Fleming, and he wrote this book, Fixing the Sky: The Checkered History of Weather and Climate Control. He's the top authority in the world, kind of a personal hero. I got to meet him in person at the Weather Modification Conference at the American Meteorological Society in 2018. So we developed, somewhat of a rapport. And when I brought it to him and I said, "Hey, take a look at this. The Chinese are taking over the entire Himalayan plateau. They're putting hundreds. It's twice the size of Spain at this point. The area that they're covering with cloud seeding generators." Shit. I asked him, would something of this size be what we talked about at the Weather Modification Conference? Not a butterfly effect, but the Mothra effect.
Mothra, there we go. There we go.
So,
Gajira,
bro, like, it's freaking Mothra. And James Roger Fleming actually came up with that term. So of course, I'm tweeting him and I'm like, "Bruh, is this the Mothra effect?" And he said, It certainly would, be of a large enough scale to not only be considered the Mothra effect, but translate to a geoengineering program. That it's not just weather modification when you're doing it on that large a scale, that it is world altering weather manipulation. Yes. That was in 2018. Now you think about what they've done since then, because you have to think about it, because I don't read fucking Mandarin. So it's really hard to get information about this. I'm relying on local Chinese reporters to get this information out about the progress of these programs. But we've seen the torrential flood after flood after flood in China. The Three Gorges Dam almost destroying itself from these floods. So, yeah, I would say it's working well for them. They're making plenty of water. But how's it working out for everybody else? That's the question. Are they violating? Incredible. Are they violating NMOD, the Weather Warfare Ban of 1978, the Environmental Modification Convention of 1978 came as a result of Operation Popeye, weather warfare in Vietnam, and it says long-lasting or severe transboundary weather manipulation. Everything they're doing right now. So that's where I'm at with it. I think you pick a topic and I'll tie it to China. I'm like the Donald Trump of tying shit to China.
No, I'm with you, dude. I'm really with you. Hey guys, listen, it's August. You know what August is all about? Being a leader of your own herd. That's right. And if you want to be a leader of your own herd, you should check out Black Buffalo. That's right. Black Buffalo. If you're over 21 and dip or chew pouches or long cut, check out the award-winning tobacco alternative, Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo is everything you love, nothing you don't. The feel, the taste, the ritual, just without the actual tobacco leaf or stem. Black Buffalo is actually made from a variety of green leaves in the cabbage family. Bam. You take pride in what you do. Take pride in what you dip. Honor your rituals with Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo makes the best flavors like wintergreen, mint, straight, peach, and even blood orange and without pharmaceutical grade nicotine. You can buy Black Buffalo online at blackbuffalo.com. Okay, with the promo code TINFOIL, okay? Or at thousands of retail locations across the country by checking their store locator on their website. So go check it out. Again, that's blackbuffalo.com, promo code TINFOIL. We have people, the beauty of what we try to do on the show is to give the spectrum of opinions and voices and political views a platform to be discussed. And we have friends from the left that have come on here and said some really amazing things. Like we've had Pasta on here. You can see he's hosting Jimmy Dore now, and he's knocking out of the park. He looks great. He's been working out. He's wonderful. He pushes back in a lot of the Chinese narrative. He's like, this is and he's always welcome on the show. We love him very much. And he's been pushing back. A lot of it is anti-war. This is military industrial propaganda. But what I think is that there is something to this. Because I've had people on my show. I've had Robbie Martin on the show. We've discussed the Uyghur camps. Is that legit and all that stuff? And for me, and he doesn't think that's what they are. And I respect Robbie Martin a lot, even though he's been teeing off on me on Twitter lately, but that's okay. I can take it. I'm a big boy. I got big boy pants.
The day we all agree is the day we could all be wrong.
Yeah, I agree. So I love both of them, but I kind of look back at like Mao and what Mao did. How many people did we lose? 40 to 60 million, whatever that number is. Infanticide with baby girls. All this stuff is real. That to me isn't made up. So when I start to think about a lot of the stuff that's going on, I go, yeah, it's the Chinese government, but I also think it's like the same dark hand that has been at work over like centuries, which is these like international dark arts people that have like, Henry Kissinger got a Nobel Peace Prize because he supposedly saved China from famine. Well, China was doing what the dark arts people wanted them to do, which was to install communism, Marxism, which led to that. And then through that destruction, he was allowed to bring in the Western corporations and intelligence, which to me somewhat brought in social credit score and all that stuff. So I think it's very interesting. I think when people are like, well, the China isn't doing it, I go, I think you're wrong on it. I think you have to take a look at what China is doing. But the question is, who's behind that even farther? If you go even deeper?
I would like to just give a personal account as a hacker since I was 15 years old.
Love it.
I'm 46 years old.
You don't look a day over.
Thank you. I was a member of Anonymous, as you can see. I was still rocking that thing in the background. But I got out right before Sabu sold out Commander X and Lulsec took the train down to Shitville. But
I
let
can
me
listen
put it
to
to
that
you.
all day. I don't even know what you said there, and I can listen.
I'm telling you, the inside story of Anani Ops would blow your fucking mind. But regardless, those were the great days of the world wild west, which have now disappeared. But when in 2015, I was working for a tire company. All right, local tire company. We have 5 stores. I was the network administrator for all 5 stores, their virtual private networks, all of that. I secured their firewalls. And you know what was happening in 2015? The Chinese government had 40 separate server farms that were attacking our network every single day so that they could just get the prices on our Goodyear tires and get the email addresses of everybody that, did the purchasing in the company. And they say, we see you spend $109 on Goodyear tire. We sell you yin yang tire, $79. That's called economic warfare, motherfuckers. So in 2015, I went to my CEO about this and I said, look, man, do you understand that when you told me to take over this job, I did an audit. And you guys, every employee, their addresses, their social security numbers, everything about them has already been stolen. So I'm going to secure it from here on out. And I went to war. I'm bringing stuff to him. And I said, the only way I can stop this is if you let me go offensive. So I spent the next 3 months destroying 40 server farms in China. To make it stop.
Dude, that's the best, bro.
I still have the log files that I printed out that are this thick of every single packet of every single data point. So FBI, you want to come talk to me about it? I'll show you how to do it. But you guys already know that. So to make the argument that we have not been at World War III, the internet version, since 2010, when the first invasions into our SCADA networks occurred, when they broke into the Office of Personnel Management, stole every single secret intelligence agent home address, everything is at the OPM office. They stole that. They violated NASDAQ. To say that they're not at war with us is pure insanity. Mm-hmm. To think that they have the technology, now that they've basically raped us of all of our money, because we're all too stupid to stop going to Walmart. Well, now they're using it to, control the weather because guess what? They got a population problem and they got a water problem. And do they give a damn about violating our weather? They sure didn't give a damn about sending a balloon over America. That balloon could have had an EMP on it. And we would all not be having this conversation right now. It'd be freaking guns and ammo and just
Red Dawn, dog.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, dude. So I'm done with the China, picking on China, but China is asshole. Okay, that's all. I'll leave it at that.
But wait, so you're saying that China somehow sent over the winds to Hawaii in some kind of way, or
hey, welcome to the show, XG.
No,
Thank
I
you
know.
for tuning in.
I'm
We're
trying.
30
I'm
minutes into
trying.
this conversation.
Okay, I know,
Okay.
but I'm trying to get it to fucking get it across. Like they sent it over as in like, so this has nothing to do with America. This is literally it's the first time I hear it.
So to create an artificial high pressure dome, have you've ever heard that term? Because this is a term that floats around the conspiracy world all the time. Somebody's creating artificial high pressure domes. You really have to think about that one. Okay, they always say it's HARP, which is stupid. That's whatever they say it is. It's never that. Okay, but if you go back to 1976, there was a guy by the name of William Gray who came up with this idea of carbon black dust absorption of solar radiation. The idea that you could steer hurricanes by dumping soot or carbon black into them. And that would, because just like your car is black, it sits in the sun, you put your bare ass on it, you burn your ass cheeks. The sun heats black things. No offense to black people.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yeah, go right ahead, please.
Jump
please
in
do.
anytime.
I've been waiting for you.
Because I'm actually an expert on black carbon. Biochar is black carbon.
I know, and that's why I was waiting for you, dude.
So
throwing you the bone, man. Go with it.
So black carbon, like if it's pyrolyzed, has another thing that nobody talks about. It is the most diamagnetic substance on the planet.
What does that mean? Because I flung first
means
grade.
it will reflect a electrical field. It won't absorb it. So if you have a conductor that will take an electrical impulse from one area to another, something that's diamagnetic will actually reflect it. So people have to understand that hurricanes and tornadoes are electrical events. So you have this high pressure dome that he's talking about. Well, wherever you have a high pressure dome, you're also going to have a counter rotating low pressure system right next to it. Nothing is alone. There is no island unto itself.
That's
so
right.
The dome is created in one area, and then they have a low pressure system near it.
Which was the
boundary
hurricane.
layer is the magic. That's usually where you have all these shenanigans go on. But if you dump something like pyrolyzed carbon dead center into the eye of an electrical event, you kill it. Because now the electrical charge, the ground fault situation between the heaven and the ground, it's terminated. If there's no electricity that can transfer from top to bottom, it's like it would be like canceling the lightning. And that's exactly what they're doing.
And on top of that, carbon black is hydrophobic, which is kind of antithetical to what the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Naval Research Lab say when they say cloud seeding with carbon black to do weather warfare. Recently, there's this big talk about using carbon black in cement to create supercapacitors. Mm-hmm. So you're familiar with this, I'm sure. Yes. And the idea is, it says MIT engineers create an energy storing supercapacitor from ancient materials. Ooh, so we're talking like, you mean like ancient Egyptians could have made this shit very easily, because in effect, carbon black is not very much different than soot. In fact, most scientists use the words interchangeably. There are slight differences, but they're very few. So in this case, they're literally talking about mixing carbon black with cement to create supercapacitors so that they can create roads that are batteries. The battery actually is a conductor, a supercapacitor, that your cement driveway could be the storage unit for your solar cells and all of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So there is a strong electrical component to how carbon black operates in different forms.
There's a ton of evidence that you can create a geopolymer, which is a man-made stone, where if you put something like carbon black, which has a ton of graphene in it, And we've all been somewhat educated with what graphene is, but graphene is like the smallest particulate of the flat carbon molecule, and it's laid in an arrangement where it's almost vitrified.
Lattice.
So whenever you were to press that with, let's say, a sound wave or a pressure gradient or a tire, that it's piezoelectric. It converts that form of kinesthetic energy into electrical energy.
And I've never heard it called piezo because I'm an idiot. And when I was working in car stereo, I always said piezoelectric. But a little bit about piezoelectric or piezoelectric.
Man, if you're dumb, I'm in trouble.
Well, the only reason I've ever heard that is from the piezo pickups on a guitar. So that's
right.
Yep.
So same thing.
It's
It's a metal that when you pass an electric current through it can create sound waves. I had one too installed in my Chevy Blazer when I was in high school that would generate a 160 decibel, 20,000 hertz signal. It felt like literally needles penetrating every inch of your body. It was called a pain generator.
Why'd you do that?
Because if somebody broke the window out of my, $6,000 to $7,000, Phoenix Gold amps competition sound system in there, it was connected to the Viper, alarm. And whenever the alarm would go off, it would instantly turn the pain generators on with a motion sensor in the cab.
Snaps!
So even if I had the window rolled down at a Walmart and somebody stuck their hand in the window, it would literally burn the skin off your hand and you would run for cover. That's how powerful these, especially when you combine them with a neodymium style magnet, like a non-ferrous magnet. Neodymium is like extremely tiny magnets that are like, if you had a magnet this big, you could make a neodymium this big and generate the same amount of power. I love science. It's just,
you guys are crushing it.
Like I use neodymium magnets of all different shapes.
Yeah.
This is actually one of the strongest magnets in the world. I can't get it too close to my computer because it'll destroy
it. Eat it up.
This is 72,000 Gauss.
Ooh.
Yeah. Like the strongest drivers in the world, tweeters and drivers on the best speakers in the world would use something that has half the strength of this.
Yeah.
So
and what would you use that for?
I condition water. Like I have all these different types of water conditioners. I have all these different types of orgone accumulators.
You could use that to erase Hillary Clinton's emails, like just by waving it. I mean, literally, you could just wave it around the hard drive in a circular pattern, and the Department of Defense would never be able to read that hard drive again.
Yeah, like
what? Really?
Yeah, This I can't. Like the flux pattern comes straight out the point. I can't point it at the computer. It's that crazy. Yeah, so I use these to condition water. I also use these with clients to find where they have stuck electrical patterns. Like if they there's a whole way of actually divining people on their meridians to find where they're actually holding. And when you use a very, very strongly polarized cone magnet, you can zero into exactly where in the body a person is holding something.
Wow.
Because your nervous system is an antenna. Your heart gives off an electromagnetic pulse. We are bioelectric.
Yes.
And I'll let Mr. Biocharisma explain that.
Yeah. So getting back to like the way these weather systems work, it's so huge to understand that weather systems are electrical.
Right.
So when I talk to people about weather modification, I have to like kind of I have to educate them in the whole notion that we live in an electrical universe. Everything is governed by electricity. And so there's all different types of electricity. There's all different types of magnetism. And the main way like that these, I guess you would say, the common weather is modified, because there's probably all different type. Well, I know there's all different types of weather modification systems, but they use essentially they change the condensation nuclei in the sky with metal salts. Like this black carbon isn't a metal salt, but it will actually make water droplets smaller, and then they can pulse through different EMF signatures. They can pulse that in different directions. That creates pressure gradients. And pressure gradients, the boundary, it's like anybody's been to a boundary town, they're always kind of like shady. Like the boundary layers between these pressure gradients are where so many different, I guess you would say, weather events, or like 100-year floods, or let's just say buildings go missing, like the largest buildings in the world go missing. It's because there's so much potential energy in the static field in those areas that energy can be used by anybody that knows how to direct it through either a discordant pattern, which would be like a constructive interference pattern, or a destructive interference pattern. And all of this has been in the public domain since I think since the 40s, right, Jim?
Yeah,
like
since can you guys see this up on the screen as I'm speaking?
Yeah.
So this is Dr. Irving Langmuir, who co-invented cloud seeding, and this is a not often heard quote, but it goes right to what Topher was just saying. When we're talking about the amount of energy, quote, in the amount of energy liberated, the effect of 30 milligrams of silver iodide under optimum conditions equals that of one atomic bomb. This is Vincent Schaefer, Irving Langmuir, and Bernard Vonnegut invented cloud seeding in 1946. And Bernard Vonnegut, brother of Kurt Vonnegut, the famous author, he spent the rest of his life studying electrical, effects in clouds, and how, static dissipation, static charge, how does it work? And when we come, to the present, Jasper Kirby from CERN did this thing called the Cloud Project, Cosmics Leaving Outdoor Droplets. And he came to the conclusion that simply the only thing necessary to make it rain, to make a cloud that will produce rain, is a cloud seed, water vapor, and some galactic cosmic rays, some static electricity, some form of ionization. So if you have these three things, what's interesting about what he found was that he actually used cloud seeds that were created from a coniferous plant, aka a pine tree. So right there, I'd love to. I could completely forget these guys are here, and me and you have a conversation about Terra Preta for the next hour.
I feel like we're interrupting you guys. Sorry about this, guys. Don't mind us. We'll stay here.
Dude, this is so great. This is pine wood biochar.
Yep.
So the craziest thing about this material, so in this material, just like this at one time was a pine tree. Wow. I pyrolyzed it. I cook it inside of a retort. If I was to mash this down, I would have, they say something like this is a little bit more than an ounce of biochar. I would have something like 3 trillion nodes of absorption just off of less than 1 ounce of pyrolyzed pine. And what that means is particles, small particles. Like you have, like when you have these like these infinitesimally small particles made from a highly diamagnetic substance, you control the electrical field of an area. It's that simple.
Hey guys, real quick, I'm gonna tell you about our friends at Blue Chew. That's right. Blue Chew, American made for American boners, for American people who love American boners. Let me tell you about Blue Chew. Let's talk about sex, baby. Guys, remember the days when you were always good to go? Now you can increase your performance and get extra confidence in the bed. Listen up. It's BlueChew.com. Okay. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in a chewable tablet at a fraction of the cost. That's what we're talking about. Chewing cheap. I'm in, okay?
Chewing and doing.
Chewing
and screwing.
Blue Chew. Chewing and screwing. Chewing, doing, and screwing. There we go, bro. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead and be ready whenever the opportunity arises, okay? The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA. USA. Yeah. That's the eagle of lovemaking right there, okay? And be prepared and shipped directly to your door. It's all in a discreet package. So here's what we want you to do, man. Blue Chew wants to help you go get more bang for your buck. You get it? Buck, bang, bucking, pow. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. Okay? So we got a special order for you listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use the promo code TINFOIL at checkout and just $5 shipping, okay? That's BlueChew.com, promo code TINFOIL to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. BlueChew.com, tinfoil hat.
So this goes back to what we were talking about with the high pressure zone. When you have planes, we'll just take planes, for example. This was published July 7th, 2023. 1 million tons of carbon black dust nanoparticles come from aviation emissions annually. To give that some perspective, we burn 1.5 million barrels of jet fuel per day every year in America. These, in addition to just the soot and the black carbon, there are all of these metals. I could bring up my, chart. I'm not going to, but all the usual suspects that everybody looks for in chemtrails: aluminum, barium, strontium, vanadium, molybdenum, zirconium, all the EMs. Okay. All these alkali earth metals. What's interesting about this high pressure dome situation that we have is that in 2020, the International Maritime Organization banned bunker fuel, which was heavy fuel oil, which was loaded with sulfur, and they're pissed about it because their ship tracks have disappeared. Now they claim that the North Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean are heating as a result of the decreased sulfur levels from the pollution from ships. They're trying to do the same thing with contrail control and cirrus cloud seeding or cirrus cloud thinning with the airline industry. So while Maui was burning, all of these ships and all of these planes are laying down blankets of carbon black nanoparticles in this wide field. Now let's put a big conspiracy hat on. In 1929, Herman Oberth came up with an idea called the burning glass. It was the idea of putting a magnifying glass in space. During World War II, the Nazis tried to create the sun gun. Whenever HAARP was invented, they created artificial ionospheric mirrors by heating a portion of the atmosphere, boiling a portion of the atmosphere, by dumping electrons into the 150 to 300 kilometer portion of space. BAE Systems came up with something called the laser developed atmospheric lens, which mimicked the artificial ionospheric mirror, that was created by HARP, and the idea that it generated a very rapid laser beam stream that would ionize a portion of the upper atmosphere to create a magnifying glass out of the sky. Now, in the videos and the propaganda that they put out in their documentation, they said that the purpose of it would be to fly unmanned drones like the X-37B, to put spy cameras on there, and then use the laser to create a magnifying glass, then use the spy cameras to look through that magnifying glass and be able to count Sam's nose hairs from space.
There's a lot.
But if you can do that, then you can do what I did as a Boy Scout or any other retard that just wanted to burn a frog's butt. You have a huge magnifying glass in space with the most powerful source of energy in our solar system, the sun.
Wow.
So this has been a long talked about idea. And when you have defense contractors like BAE Systems literally bragging about the ability to create a laser developed atmospheric lens, then, I mean, we really open the door to anything. In 1968, the other big idea was the solar powered satellite. And there was a bunch of hearings on this, and they basically determined that A, it was way too big. They could never really pull it off. It'd be too expensive. B, it would do a whole lot of weather modification and could possibly burn cities to the ground. But in the congressional testimony, they said it could not be considered a weapons system as long as it was considered green energy.
Oh my God.
This was in 1968. Now, today, and this comes from Rosalind Peterson, another hero of mine. I followed all of her work. After reading her papers, I was like, this has got to be bullshit. Then I found the original documents from testimony in Congress.
And what was the name of this hearing?
I would have to dig into my website. It's on my website. But anyway, the solar powered satellite, 1968, you can look it up. Today, there are lots of people talking about creating these solar powered satellites. And in fact, last month, Caltech launched a solar powered satellite, and we're beaming signals down to the roof of Caltech. So there are all these potentials that, where people are talking about, oh, well, directed energy weapons burn Maui to the ground. Is it possible? Yeah, maybe. Is it likely? I don't think so. There's much more efficient ways to do it. And then you talk about, UAVs, directed energy weapons on unmanned aerial vehicles, or, laser pods on F-16 fighting Falcons. I mean, is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. When I focus like a laser on this for over, pardon the pun,
there we go,
for over a week.
Damn Biden, whatever.
No, I want to say this. I want to say this on behalf of Biden, because Kanye West is not here to say it. Joe Biden doesn't care about brown people.
Well, yeah, there we go.
Because Katrina, Bush.
Yeah,
if you don't get the joke, I know you guys do, but
you're probably not listening to the show if you don't get the joke.
There might be some young kids who weren't around, or don't remember Katrina.
And by the way, if you're too young to remember that, your parents are great for letting you listen to the show.
Can I give you guys a heads up on Katrina once you're done with your
yeah, of course,
with what you're saying?
Well, the point I was trying to make is that because of Katrina, President Obama commissioned the Department of Homeland Security to do a hurricane modification workshop in 2008. And what did they say at that hurricane modification workshop? Dr. Mosh Alamaro from MIT University said the exact same thing that William Gray said in 1976. Hey, we should sprinkle a bunch of carbon black dust into hurricanes and steer them.
That is insane to me.
So check this out. Katrina went over my house twice in Florida. So a lot of people don't know. Katrina is like really what started my mind onto weather modification, because as a South Floridian, Katrina started over, I think, Guatemala, killed like 50,000 people. It was either Guatemala or Honduras, with like 3 days of torrential rains. Now, it was a hurricane that sat over that peninsula, that area, for 3 days. Usually that kills a hurricane. Then it goes up the Caribbean. It goes just north of the Keys and then makes a beeline due east across South Florida, goes over my house. Oh, this is afterwards. No, this is only the track after it was all the way east. Before it was all the way east, it was west of Florida. It goes over Naples, goes over through northern Broward County, southern Palm Beach County, hits my house. I had just bought my house, goes out to the Bermuda Triangle, stops, dips down to the Bahamas, and then goes back down and hits my parents' house in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. My parents are doctors, so they had to like evacuate the hospital and live in the hospital, or they evacuated their house and lived in the hospital during it. It goes back into the middle of the Gulf of Mexico and then heads due north. I tracked hurricanes with my father since I was a little wee boy. I learned how to use a grid system with latitude and longitude. When I was growing up in the 80s, all the hurricanes came off Africa and came across the equator, and you always had this nice little arc that would come up through the Caribbean. Most of them would just end up in the Atlantic. Never, ever would you have a hurricane start in the Caribbean, go ahead and make landfall, stay overland for 3 days, creating torrential rains and like mudslides, then go over Florida twice, going all the way across and then all the way back. And I thought I was cursed because I just bought my house in Palm Beach. And I was like, woohoo, bought my first house. And then I had Katrina roll over us twice. And so I was like, this is impossible. There is no way a natural weather system could move a low pressure zone like that. Low pressure zones, because the very center of hurricanes are low pressure zones. For somebody had that low pressure zone on a joystick. That's the easiest way I can say it. It made absolutely zero sense. And the fact that you pulled up that picture and it only showed Katrina from when it was over the Bahamas and then going back, that's an incomplete picture. The truth was it started down in the Caribbean, did all of its damage, and then came up and across. Ever since then, I knew weather modification was a real thing.
Similarly, I have a similar hurricane gone freaky story. And since you're in Florida, were you in Florida in 2015?
No, I was in Costa Rica.
Okay. So in 2015, there was Hurricane Joaquin. And this son of a bitch decided it was just going to sit still for 3 days. It just parked. Now, I interviewed David Miles from Miles Research, formerly Acquiesce, and he worked with ex-Colonel David Kaczynski from the U.S. Air Force to steer atmospheric rivers into Texas. In the interview, which is on the front page of climateviewer.com, you cannot miss it. It's at the bottom of the page. You'll see David Miles. In the interview, he said, David Kaczynski bugged my room, stole my research. The U.S. Air Force has it. And I don't want to talk too much about David Kaczynski because he's like Deadpool, the real version. I mean, this dude's a ninja. He's a hacker. He's a private investigator. He trained FBI agents on martial arts, and he's a sniper. He's a skydiving airborne.
So he's what I always dreamed of being.
No shit, right? I tried to get an interview with the guy, but Jesus Christ. So I've been talking about steering atmospheric rivers for like a couple years, all right? At least 3 years by this point. And after I, had the interview with David Miles, Hurricane Joaquin comes along and it sits still, and you cannot make this shit up. This is exactly what happened. We had what was called the fire hose an atmospheric river that literally reached out of Hurricane Joaquin. My house is right here. That's where Sumter, South Carolina is. We got 33 inches of rain in a single day. It's been
confirmed.
Yeah, it's been yeah, exactly. So I mean, you can see this animation as it whips away. This is like, almost a week's worth of animation altogether. But at this point, we're already getting rain from this atmospheric river, and then this fire hose just literally douses our entire.
What year
city.
was this?
2015.
Oh yeah,
Hurricane
I
Joaquin.
lost my car in this flood. Actually, I was coming up from Hilton Head on 95, and got trapped. 95 was just flooded. I mean,
the whole interstate was underground.
Yeah, I mean, it was the crazy.
Underwater.
I saw people. I saw it just as it had 90, just as 95 flooded, and I saw cars get swept away into the forest. Never, they called it the 1,000-year flood kind of at the time, because there hadn't been a flood like that in 1,000 years. And I mean, there was nowhere I could go. I tried to make it to Kingstree, and my car just got swamped, and I was trapped. I mean,
same days, just firsthand, second person saying the same thing. I'm telling you, it rained 18 inches in the first, 6 hours of it, 33 inches in the next day. Most of my town was underwater, and the entire internet's ablaze with this shit. Like people are emailing, calling, doing everything they can. Is Jim alive? Holy shit, they shot an atmospheric river at him. And so like I go live, and I got my camera, and I walk out my front yard, and I'm like, you can't hit me, bitch. You know why? Because right near my house, about 100 yards that way, like it matters to you guys, is a ditch that runs 7 miles, and it drops about let's say about 300 to 400 feet.
Whoa!
As it goes down to the grasslands below. So I went on. Oh Lord, let me get off of Facebook. People see that I'm there. So I'm like going live, and I'm like, not to shit on anybody else who's got their house underwater right now, but you cannot destroy my house. My house is 1,000-year flood proof and Hurricane Hugo proof. So
nice.
I had less than 2 inches of water in my yard. It was just constantly running off.
So I'm going to take what I've learned right now and translate it into stupid, so that people understand what we're saying. So you're saying that they are able, through like ionizing the atmosphere, they can control where things go.
Yes.
But with an increase in heat comes an increase in pressure. And that's what basically the high pressure domes are. And it's the same thing as I would liken it to if you had a small stream about this wide, and you took a rock about this big and you put it in that stream, all the water will now divert around it. Okay. That is what a high pressure area does in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
It disrupts things.
And
whereas, go ahead.
And one thing that you should take into account is the system that we live in is perfectly balanced. So if you create an imbalance somewhere, they engineer the imbalance because there's going to be a reaction of the system trying to get back to equilibrium. So people, it's like, when you watch a football game and, somebody pushes a player and then the player reacts and the guy who reacts gets the penalty. It's so much of weather modification is like that. You got people looking at the secondary effect saying, oh, that's what they engineered. And that's actually the balance that was Mother Nature trying to balance the primary effect that was actually being engineered.
So this is that high pressure dome. This is actually on the 10th, because now, since I made my video on Sunday, I can't go all the way back to the 7th. This is as far as I can go back on zoom.earth, just to give you an idea. But what we had was this high pressure ridge up here. And at the time Dora was here, this highest area of pressure literally went, and this is America, this is Japan. That's how big we're talking about. This is abnormally large. The area of low pressure is right here at Hurricane Dora, which you can see. I think it bottomed out at about 933 millibars as it was below Maui. But that was what was causing the winds at that time to go in the direction they were. So whenever you flip the winds on, you can see that the winds were coming over the mountains and down to Lahaina. This is what caused that. So that's what we're talking about here. I wanted to just give some kind of visualization for people. I can't back it all the way back. If you want to see the original, data, but you can see it's spinning right here. This is where the high
by
pressure
spinning,
area
it's kind of pulling the air. Like so the dome is spinning the air, and the low pressure is spinning the air as well. Like
yeah, because if you look right here, this is what the low pressure region is, like a toilet bowl. That's what a hurricane is.
Yep.
So it's all running down the drain into the toilet bowl.
Wow.
That's what the driver of the fire was. The cause of the fire, we'll speculate. We can guess. We can, make all the speculation in the world. But what made the 90-mile-an-hour winds? What made the tornadoes that were visible from boats in the harbor? I mean, I've watched at least 100 firsthand videos of people. And of course, most of the evidence does point towards down power lines and stuff like that. But that's all you need when you have a tinderbox and, practically, mild, at least tropical storm powered winds.
Yeah. The start of the fire was the least of their concerns. Right, as we were trying to say, like the winds was going to handle it. Yeah.
My main concern would be, what the fuck happened afterwards? Like the minute the fire started.
Yeah. We'll get into that real quick. I just have a question on the sun gun. So, how do they make it so it goes to a specific spot?
You know what I'll do? I'll bring that up real quick. Just give me one moment. I'll go find it on my website.
Because that's interesting to me. They can weather modification certain things, and then because this has been amazing. This is one of my favorite episodes ever. And then I want to get into like all what Jim just brought up, everything after, and
here it is. So this is called the BAE Systems Laser Developed Atmospheric Lens.
BAE. Okay.
BAE Systems Laser Developed Atmospheric Lens. I put dark mode on my website because every website should have dark mode.
Respect.
For real. Like if you don't have dark mode, what are you doing? But let me see if this is me talking or let me see if I can find the original video. All right, so there's the links are right here. All right, here we go. Good Lord. That's not the thing. Preparation is always key. Let's just
we're running and gunning here. You don't know what we're
yeah.
about.
So there you go. The future of spying. Earth's atmosphere can be turned into a massive surveillance system using lasers, scientists discover. This is January 16th, 2017. Wow. I want you to watch this.
Laser developed atmosphere lens.
Damn.
You know what I can do? I can actually put the sound on. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Bring my Go XLR over here, and I'm gonna route the sound through. Routing system to the mic, and here we go. Can you guys hear it?
You can you can also just reshare it and select share system sound or something like that. So we're not hearing it.
It's just a bunch of audio effects. But anyway.
Oh, wait. No, maybe we hear something now. It's just low. Yeah.
Oh. Whoa.
Like that. Atmospheric lens operational. I see some shit we need to blow up.
These animations are fantastic.
Kind of lit.
Old school James Bond style, the Golden Eye.
Oh, they're fighting with each other?
Laser countermeasures detected.
I really think that they make these animations kind of stupid.
Whoa! So you don't take them serious?
I think it's much more advanced than that. Like I don't, I was a big student of Dr. Judy Wood. She interviewed me in 2010 and 2011 because I had been in the center of a tornado and the center of a hurricane. Well, center of 3 different hurricanes. And she was studying the low pressure, what happens electrically when you have a low pressure system, and the odd effects. Like everybody's seen pictures of a piece of straw going through a piece of steel.
Yep.
In a tornado. That's not because the wind is moving the straw at 220 miles per hour. It's because in extremely low pressure systems, you get the boundary layer between materials dissipates. So you don't need that much energy to create that much destruction. So she hypothesized that Hurricane Aaron, that was off the coast of New York during 9/11, was used as the static field generator that gave enough potential energy to essentially erase 850 million tons of metal and concrete.
Whoa!
Like people don't understand. Like there were 7 buildings in World Trade Center. 4 of them were totally destroyed. One was gutted from the center.
Building 6
down, it was cored out. So what has enough potential energy to actually create a disassociation that's that powerful, a molecular disassociation that is that powerful? And her hypothesis, because she taught down there, I think at Clemson in South Carolina.
Yep.
She's a mechanical physicist, a mechanical. I forget exactly what her professorship was, but she's a mechanical engineer. But she also was a materials scientist. She worked with 30 different companies that had molecular disassociation technology. It's not like she was coming at this like from a BS point of view. So she pointed out that Hurricane Aaron parked itself right off the New York coast
on September 11th.
On September 10th.
Oh, snap.
It was there all of September 11th, and then went, out to the ocean afterwards. But when you look at the pressure gradients that day, where are the pressure gradients between the low pressure of Hurricane Aaron and the higher pressure trough that made the sky so beautiful that day? Like even down in Florida, the high pressure zone was so amazing. Like that was one of the clearest days ever. So from all the way on the east coast of the United States, you had this high pressure ridge, and just to the east of it, you had this low pressure category 4 hurricane. What was right on the static boundary zone? We're talking about ionization, right? What can make 850 million tons of concrete and steel go away? It makes like that quote that Jim brought up earlier. It makes an atomic bomb look like a matchstick.
Yeah. People don't understand that. That was the point of bringing up that quote. The amount of potential energy in the atmosphere caused either by friction or chemical reactions, the amount of energy coming in from the sun, all of these things play in very important roles in how, energy. I'm just going to get to my point. There's a thing called the auroral electrojet. Now, this is also called the auroral ovation zone. that HARP basically used something called polar electrojet heating, that they would tune their signals to heat a portion of the sky to take advantage of the potential energy that was already there, because that's where the Van Allen belts meet the ground. Okay. That's where energy, the radiation of the sun, is dumped on the North Poles. So they already have all this potential, MEV electrons and all this stuff, tons and tons of energy. They tuned it to make it what they called a virtual antenna in the sky. Dennis Papadopoulos from the University of Maryland did several presentations on how they would do this. And the idea was to basically use the Earth, the mechanisms that are already there, the energy and potential that is already there, generated by all of these massive systems, but then give it a nice pluck. And from that, they could then, that's where the whole angels play this harp idea comes from, is that they would flick, the switch and turn that electrojet into an antenna in the sky. So from 2.8 to 10 megahertz at 3.6 million watts with an effective radiated power of 5 billion watts, they would focus that beam on the electrojet that's already there. There's also an electrojet around the equator. Side point. And that 2.8 to 10 megahertz signal, they could turn that into a 0.005 hertz ultra low frequency wave. Oof. So they were creating ELF, ULF from HF by using the sky as a virtual antenna. And they were doing that back in 1994, dude.
Yeah. And that's exactly what Dr. Woods brings up, is the fact that they'll potentiate an area with these high and low pressure systems. They potentiate an area between the boundary zone of the high pressure and the low pressure. They hit it with an ELF wave. That's where you see the toasted cars, where every other car at ground level, that's like the bass note in the music, right? They hit it with extremely low frequency, and then they hit it with the tertiary frequency of microwave. Between those three, you have a deconstructive interference pattern that makes things go away. And that's why I look at 9/11, I look at Paradise, I don't know what happened in Maui. I don't really know what happened anywhere, but they all have the similarity of missing mass. I set things on fire as a profession. I get paid to burn things down. I know what it takes from a temperature perspective to get things down to white ash. Nobody can tell me that the missing mass of the pictures that I've seen, and I'm putting it out there. I've only seen pictures of Paradise. I've only seen pictures of Maui. I've only seen pictures. I wasn't there in person, so I can't say 100% this is what it is. But if those pictures are true, there's too much missing mass. Fire does not do that. It's like they told us the Chicago fire took down all of Chicago in the 1800s. And then you look at the pictures and it's just rubble everywhere. Well, first of all, those were all masonry buildings. So since when do masonry buildings go away? And it's the same. They play these stories over and over and over again. And it's the same BS. Okay, there were fires. How they were created, who gives a shit? Where is the mass of the buildings? In the tropics, you build with concrete. In the tropics, like I've heard, like my friends that live in Maui, they say there's tons of lean-tos, there's tons of houses that are built really rickety and crappy, and they would go up like a matchstick. And I understand that. But that there are other buildings that people are pointing out on social media over and over and over again. Like they're burnt. It's just like Paradise. They are like literally, there's no like cinder on the ground, and the color is uniform everywhere. If I set pine on fire, or if I set hickory on fire, or if I set plastic on fire, or I set whatever else on fire, I'm left with different color ash. Why is it the pictures of all the ash is uniform? That doesn't make sense. That looks like Paradise, and that looks like 9/11 to me.
My God. That is
Make
incredible.
an excellent point, dude.
What would you say about the dog? You seen that picture of that dog that it doesn't look like it died how it should have died in a fire?
Well, it's just like in 9/11. How can you have 110 stories of Tower 1? The firefighter is there and he's like, okay, I'm sayonara, I'm out. I love you guys. Peace out. I love you. And then he thinks the building's coming down. They're like, it's coming down. He's like, I love you guys. I'm out. And I got chills now. A couple minutes later, he's like, I can see the sun. That's the thing with some of this weaponry is it works on resonance. And if you're not in the deconstructive interference pattern, it does not affect you.
So
all this stuff would dematerialize. It's literally like sci-fi. It would dematerialize around you.
Okay. So I need to really understand this because I think this is important. And the one thing about this show is that we reach like normies, like, you know, so
can I give the redneck version?
Yeah. I mean, what I need you guys to do is simplify this in terms of explaining it to I understand it, but I want to be able to articulate it.
Redneck to a Mexican. Explain it to a Mexican that hasn't learned it. It's like he barely knows English.
This is insane.
This sonically, you can have people when they sing, they can crack glass.
Exactly. And the same is true with subwoofers. Whenever I would go to sound pressure level contests and I would play subsonic infrasound, okay? Whenever you hit 20 hertz, you're a sound guy, right? 20 hertz is usually the cutoff level of what you can hear. Sonically, anything below 20 hertz is called infrasound. Electromagnetically, anything below about 40 to 50 hertz is called extremely low frequency. So there's a difference between sonic and electric, but we're going to focus on just sonic and how it affects things. Everything in the universe, including you, has a resonant frequency.
Yes.
At that resonant frequency, your atoms bonds break. Mm-hmm. That's what happens when, like Topher said, the woman hits the resonant frequency of the glass and it shatters. Whenever my Chevy Blazer hit a 7 hertz tone at about 135 decibels, it blew the back glass. We had put Lexan in, like bulletproof Lexan in, because we'd blown the glass out so many times. That broke that shit. Okay? At 7 hertz. So somewhere in that range. The same is true of the human body and the human brain. A 7 hertz signal with enough pressure can shut down the autonomic systems of the brain, meaning it will shut down your breathing, your heartbeat, all of that. And everything between about 7 to 10 hertz at very minute fluctuations of electromagnetic or acoustic frequency can cause you to go from wildly panicked to passing out. We are bioelectric. And the same is true of that dresser right there, that brick house. Everything has its resonant frequency. And with enough potential, with enough kinetic energy and the right frequency, it can be destroyed instantaneously.
Now, here's the magic. Here's the magic in this. So we're talking about these massive storms, these low pressure and high pressure systems. You have the boundary zone between these. That's where the static charge, that's where the pressure gradient is. Guess what that infuses all the matter within that area? It infuses that area with the same resonant electrical charge. They saturate an area with an electrical charge that they know. Because just normally, if life was going about, well, there's so much variance that their weaponry wouldn't work. But what you do is you saturate an area. It's like the woodpecker signal that the Russians were sending over to the US in the 70s. You saturate with a tone. Da-dun, 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 da-dun. And before you know it, that tone is working on you. And all your molecules in your system start to associate with that tone. and then they hit with the dissonant frequencies, and then that's how they can get the desired effect that they want.
Dissonance frequency?
Dissonant. So you have resonant. Resonance is a building of energy. And then you have a dissonant frequency, which can be a destructive interference pattern.
That's so crazy. It's so crazy. So each resonant frequency has its own specific dissonance frequency.
Yes. Yeah, and we've all experienced it. Like you're like listening to some good music, and then some dipshit starts to sing along bad, and it's like hurts your ears. That's dissonant to you because you're jamming with what it is that's getting you vibing, and then you get hit with this dissonant frequency, and it's jarring. Well, imagine if your entire
noise cancellation.
Exactly.
The same technology that's used in noise cancellation is what he's talking about.
Precisely.
You have one signal that's coming in like this, and you're going to have a matching signal that cancels it out.
Whoa.
That's what he's talking about.
That's a great way of putting it.
Like
And
magnets, kind of how you put two magnets together and they kind of bounce off.
Yeah. That's a little different because that's polar. You know what I mean? That's push and pull. This is more like if you had two boats running side by side on a lake, they're going to have a wake. And when you watch the wake ripples, they're either going to combine or they're going to cancel out, depending on where those ripples are. So that's the idea of, this cancellation effect. That's how directed energy weapon, especially in sonic weapon, defense systems are designed to detect a high frequency, powerful sonic signal and then create alternate frequencies to cancel them out. And it's the same thing that happens. I met with a Russian millionaire that wanted to buy into Climate Viewer in my early days. And enough about that. One of the coolest thing that I ever seen was he had all these guns. He lived in New York. He had a fucking armory. And he took me on the last day because I told him no the whole time. Like, nobody's buying my shit. Screw off. But we went out to the gun range, and he had these headphones, and they had a microphone on it. This was in 2012. And we could talk to each other, and we could hear each other. And the second that you would fire the gun, the mic would hear the sound of the gun, and it would play a signal back that would completely cancel out everything. I said, how much are these damn headphones? He's like, they're like $3,000 for the headphones. But the ability to, you're talking 120, 110, 120 decibel shotgun blast, and it's not there, completely gone, generated by some battery powered headphones. So you can only imagine what could be done with the power of a freaking hurricane stalled out.
Yeah, I mean, there are headphones that are like magic. I've had some of those too. That can cancel out, especially sounds that are relatively consistent, like the drone of an AC or something. I mean, you could just even the ones Apple makes. Yeah, it's like it is like magic the way it works. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that.
So
yeah, what Judy Wood was getting into that was so critical, because there are there's patented technologies with this, is when you do this not just on the sonic level, but you can do it at the electrical level where there's covalent bonds. And covalent means where all the particles, all the billiard balls that they say that we're made out of, they have electrical bonds. And so when you super saturate something electrically, the electrical potential has a resonant and a dissonant frequency that they know. So what she pointed out was within the rubble that was left at the bottom of the towers was what did you see the most of in the rubble? There were over 3,000 porcelain toilets. Now, why would you have steel girders that were rated at, something like 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit disappear as they're falling down, but every single porcelain toilet made its way down to the ground? And why would that be? because porcelain as a clay, people don't know porcelain is a clay. The resonant frequency of whatever tech that they were using that day did not affect porcelain. And no matter how much they super saturated that building and those buildings with an electrical incongruence, it did not matter to the porcelain because the porcelain was vitrified in its resonant pattern. It did not affect it.
That explains why a house could be just gone and a tree is standing right next to it.
Precisely.
And this is not new by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, it's new to me.
It's not. Okay. Topher brought this up earlier, the Russian woodpecker. And I wouldn't exactly call this a conspiracy rag because this happens to be popular communications, which is like popular mechanics. This is for the ham radio operators. In fact, the ham radio operator who wrote this, Harry Call, has his ham radio operator number right there. But during what's interesting about this is the Russian woodpecker was able to cause one of the worst winter storms on record, that it caused the El Nino to pop up off schedule. This happened in 1983. What most people don't know about the Russian woodpecker is that it was doing weather warfare over America. Soviet superpower tests burned the ionosphere from the monitoring times. This is, an infographic on that. But Jack Anderson, who was one of the most famous reporters, he's the guy who broke the story of Operation Popeye in Vietnam. Jack Anderson was a regular jackass of a reporter, and he constantly stuck it to the man. This is from the Washington Post, 1981. What's creepy about it is this originally appeared in a newspaper, but it says declassified in part, and this is from the CIA's reading room, The Race for Star Wars Weapons. And it talks about charged particle beam weapons and high energy lasers and all of these sorts of things. Charged particle beam devices, or CBPs, represent a new phase in the historical development of technology. When perfected, these controlled lightning bolts solve a wide range of scientific and industrial problems. The report said Soviet work on CBPs is strong in exactly those areas needed for weapons applications. This was 1981. The idea that the Russian woodpecker was powered by the Chernobyl nuclear power plant.
I didn't know that.
This is what I do with Climate Viewer 3D. It's at climateviewer.org. I've mapped out every single high-powered radar on the planet, every nuclear explosion, every nuclear device, every NSA spy facility. And when I had this aha fucking moment right here, everything made sense. 1983, they were doing weather warfare over America. Mm-hmm. Well documented, with a 60 hertz signal that basically created rolling and standing waves over the Rocky Mountains that reached from the Brazos River all the way to Canada. Now, riddle me this. They came out with the documentary Chernobyl, and I had already, before the Chernobyl documentary on HBO came out, had said, it's my personal belief that the CIA blew up Chernobyl because they were doing weather warfare over America using the Chernobyl nuclear power plant to power the Russian woodpecker, aka the Duga 3 radar. No shit, you cannot make this up. After it came out on HBO, the Russian government said, that's some fucking bullshit. And in fact, the CIA blew up, Chernobyl. And we're going to make our own damn documentary to show how the CIA did do it.
Whoa!
But wait, you're saying that they make movies as like spinning the reality into something that it's not?
No, who would do that? I mean, is it infotainment? I mean, we're not supposed to educate people with this kind of shit. I mean, seriously. I watched a whole thing by Oliver Stone called The Untold History of America. And I was like, and it was on Netflix, and I was like, I was clapping, I was like, all right, man, let's go, man. He just fucking talked about how the CIA basically overthrew the democratically elected president of Iran, and then figured that out. And so they kicked that president that the CIA installed into Iran out because they wanted that oil. Like Dave Chappelle said, oil? Who's talking about oil, bitch? So you cooking? Like
it's yellow cake.
Yeah, yellow cake. Don't drop that shit, motherfucker. Seriously, like that. I'm watching this whole thing go down, and he's like going through the whole history, like way back, and then he gets to Lyndon Johnson. I'm like, all right, here it goes. The shit's about to hit the fan, and the motherfucker did not say a word about Operation Popeye. He didn't say nothing about the weather warfare, and I'm going, the fuck is going on here? Because Henry Kissinger, the CIA, the Air Force Research Lab, the Weather Reconnaissance Division of the Air Force at Wright-Patterson and China Lake Naval Weapons Stations in California. It was Kissinger, the CIA, Air Force, and Navy that did weather warfare over Vietnam and Laos. And you failed to mention this in your documentary, like. They say that the CIA and the FBI tried to kill Jack Anderson over, Watergate, and this to this day it's on his Wikipedia. They failed to mention that in the Pentagon Papers, he disclosed the fact that we did weather warfare in Vietnam, and as a result of that, there was an international law banning weather warfare, a Weather Modification Reporting Act of 1972, the Weather Modification Policy Act of 1976, all of this because Jack saw a note on Lyndon Johnson's desk and said, I'm going to take a picture of this real quick. And it went in the Pentagon Papers, and the rest is history. Even Oliver Stone wouldn't touch that shit. So if you want to know why I look at Jack Anderson, who talked about charged particle beam weapons from Russia being able to literally break the bonds of matter, to break all of the stuff that sticks your ass together.
Yeah.
Particle beams.
You'll love this because you're talking about these atmospheric lenses and all this stuff. My first scalar physics teacher was Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden. And he was
that slide I just showed was from Tom Bearden.
So there you go. And
Maxwell equations and scalar waves.
Perfect. Brother. So I'll break this down for you. Listen to the term that he used. He said this type of technology is scalar, which means magnitude, interferometry, which means interference geometry. All that they have to do is create an environment through polarization of all these particulates in the air, hypercharge it with an electrical charge and ionization, and then they introduce an interference geometry, an interference pattern. It's just like when you're around somebody that you really vibe with, the two of you, the Venn diagram of your guys' auras works. And then when you come around somebody else that you recoil and you don't like, it's because
the hair on the back of your neck stands up.
Yeah. Your auras are dissonant. This whole technology is called a scalar interferometry, interference geometry. It's been so well known for so long. And that's why I was saying earlier, they show you these like bullshit pictures of laser beams shooting from planes up. They don't need any of that noise.
No.
None of it. That's all like Star Wars. That's
dude,
all.
I got crucified on YouTube for saying that like this Sunday. And I was just going, look, guys, if you want, drones, making fires. Here's a fire. This is a drone that has 400 fireballs on it that they can use to do controlled burns. It's a fire making drone. But we don't need laser beams. We're way past that. The shit that they're doing, when you look at what they're doing at CERN, and you look and you understand that they are basically getting to the fundamental, building blocks of the entire universe, let alone a building, that with frequency and energy, you can destroy anything from any distance.
Exactly. And that was what that's what Tom Bearden was talking about. In interference geometry, in scalar, it's only magnitude. There is no distance. So it's like ringing a tuning fork. I have friends that do tuning fork and biofield resonance healing. They don't need to be around you to do it. How does that make any sense? It's because there is a field that's prior to material. They used to call it the ether.
I was going to say Tesla called it ether.
Oh, dude, that's why I want to ask you.
Right to it.
Yeah.
Explain to me ether.
Ether. So the cosmology prior to Einsteinian bullshit was essentially that there's ether. Ether is solid. What we actually occupy, like for you to see me, you and I occupy space. We occupy the space and time domain. The domain that actually holds space and time is ether, and it's solid. So in scalar,
unlimited potential energy.
Exactly.
It's what Tesla was talking about.
It's pure potential. So if you ring the tuning fork in the scalar domain, as long as that magnitude has a resonance somewhere else that you engineer in the space domain, it's instantaneous transference. That's why Hollywood fills us with all this BS of like, you have to see a gun shooting. During the making of Avatar, James Cameron, he gave up the goat. I saw a documentary on the making of Avatar, and he said, I had to make the weapons accessible to the common person.
I saw the same thing you're talking about. Go ahead, dude.
He literally said that. Like, he's looking at the person and like he almost like, really slipped up. Like they show them doing interplanetary space travel, but yet they have guns shooting bullets. Shut the fuck up.
It's it's believable a little bit, and Sigourney Weaver has the freaking pulse rifle. Okay,
right. No. They're so the technology is so far beyond that. It is so.
Can you explain that to me? To what end that's done? I just don't quite.
You guys are my mind is blown.
So check this out. So the science that was very well known until about 1917, 1918, where you had everything that we utilize right now was invented by 1917. All of the electrical systems that we use, all the communication systems, all of it was completely and utterly figured out by 1917. They bring Einstein onto the scene because they had to control the pin that we're in. We're in a central banking model system where they have to control the flow of money from where there's old people. They have to take the old money and move it to where there's young people. They always push money to where it's like essentially men are young, dumb, and full of cum. That's what they want. They're always moving energy to the young people. So the technology was outpacing what they could control. So they said, nope, we're going to introduce relativity. And we're going to teach this billiard ball model of existence where it's matter first, not energy. Where all the ether physicists were saying, no. Actually, it's the ether is first. The ether is the solid domain. We can engineer something in the space-time domain to affect the ether domain, and then the ether domain gives us a secondary effect that's instantaneous. All of this, James Clerk Maxwell, you have John Worrell Keeley, Nikola Tesla, Ed Skeeler, Ed Scout, I always forget his last name. All of these like monsters of technology, but on a very healthy level, They all said the same thing. They all believed in the Hermetic principles. As above, so below. The law of correspondence. The law of correspondence only works if you're in an ether domain. It does not work if you're in a relative universe. In a relative universe, they introduced that as a psyop because in a relative universe, it always cycles down to the lowest common denominator. It becomes mob rule. And they already know how to engineer the environment. So they know how to engineer the mob. It's that simple. They could not allow that energy to get out because energy equals the ability to travel. It gives you the ability to circumvent.
I thought energy equals mass times acceleration.
Oh my God, that was like the worst thing ever said.
I gotta troll you a little bit.
So you believe, because we've done shows on it and I got a ton of blowback by people, that Einstein might have been a fraud?
He was a complete fraud. He was kicked out of the European math. I forget what association it was. It was essentially all the top scientists in
Royal
Europe.
Society.
Their society kicked him out because he was a fraud. He was actually stealing his wife's, who was his cousin. He was stealing her work and he wasn't even describing her work correctly. So he gets kicked out of, I forget where it was, but he gets kicked out as a fraud. And then he gets floated over to the United States through PR. And when you look into the PR firms that were pumping him up, guess who's in the back of that? Edward Bernays.
Oh, snaps.
Yeah.
The man who invented propaganda.
I don't think he invented it. I think he just brought it into the modern age. I think he was using
credited
black magic that was very, very old.
Bro, this episode has been nuts.
Yeah.
This has been nuts.
So the principle that needs to be really understood is energy is before matter. Your soul is complete energy, and your soul dictates your body. Your body is the material aspect of you. Energy is always first. The spark, the divine spark that God gives is always first. Matter is secondary. And the hoax the last 100 years has been, no, material is first. Material is first. And so they teach everybody that because they don't want competition. So everybody's looking for a physical laser beam, or they're looking for a physical missile, or James Cameron sets a movie 200 years in the future and they're still using, like kinetic weapons. Like, it's freaking retarded. It's all to condition.
A realistic weapon at that point in time would literally be like, it would look like this. They would have something like this, and they would literally just rub it and you'd explode.
What?
I mean, seriously, it's just like that. Quantum entanglement. What are those? The off on. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank right now because I just got stuck on a word. But basically the idea that over any distance, whether it's in another star system, that there are points in the universe where things are connected. If it's positive here, it's negative here. There is no time differential. So the fact that you could literally make a transmission system where I could be 300,000 light years away, and we could have a real-time conversation just by ones and zeros off on that these entanglements are real, do occur, and that is already proven science. So the idea that literally somebody can have a rock that is just, give it a little rub and then destroy a city. That's what would be possible if we could do interstellar flight and all of that sort of stuff. But no, it wouldn't make a great movie. Everybody wants to see stuff like this, and I'll show you on the screen right now. This is what the Chinese are using right now. This is a Chinese directed energy weapon that they use to attack Indians. Dots, not feathers. Um, basically, the Indians are mad that the Chinese are damming up the Brahmaputra River and stealing all the the rain they made on the Himalayas. They're stealing it. So there was a face off between the Indian military and the Chinese military, and they were using these handheld directed energy weapons to literally burn the clothes off of people and leave blisters on them and stuff. So there has to be this happy medium between what the people at the very top, the upper echelon, they know to be true. They have the technology. It's old technology. It's been understood for, at least 100 years.
Is it? Would you consider the Havana syndrome kind of the same thing in a way?
Yes.
That's exactly what was going on. So it's the same as in the 1980s with the Moscow signal. It's the same idea. And it also happened in China. It wasn't just in Havana. And there were over 180 CIA and other government officials harmed by directed energy weapons here in America, in the homeland. So not just in Cuba, not just in the 80s in Moscow. The signals intelligence using high frequency, what are called active something resonator, I'm trying to remember the word, cavitating resonators, like the one that was behind the Great Seal. That was they have this resonating rod, and by putting external energy into it, it resonates. It captures audio, and then it resends the signal back out to another location. So you can put something that does not have any power in it whatsoever to record people in an ambassador's office. And then
okay. So you're like, they could make this book a recording device if they want to. Is that what you're saying? If they really want to.
Basically, this resonator, it was basically a piece of metal about this long with a hollow body on the end of it. And this was back in like the 70s.
You're talking about the thing, right? I think that's what they call it. The thing.
That's what it was called. It was called the thing. I'm trying to remember please, for the love of God, correct me on this because I don't have time to Google it again. But anyway, the way it worked was that the thing was inside another thing. So, I've got this hanging up on the wall. Here, we're Boy Scouts. We're giving you this, crest, with the Russian symbol on it. He hangs it on the wall. The CIA are outside. They're shooting a microwave beam into the thing. And because they're applying power from an external source, now the thing is active. And not only is the thing active and capturing audio, it's resonating that audio and sending it back out to a receiver at another location. Wow. That's what happened with the Moscow signal. That's what happened in Cuba. And at first, when the story first broke and I was covering it on YouTube, they were trying to say it was crickets. It was all kind of, all this bullshit. And I was like, no, that shit is microwave. I said, I will bet my left testicle today.
I can give you guys direct testimony. I've been shot at with a microwave weapon.
Ditto.
Yeah. Ditto. So it was, at the time it was happening, it was 2006. So I didn't know what that technology was. It wasn't until 5 years later that I figured it out because I saw what the antenna, I remember what the antenna looked like on top of the unmarked van that was pointed at my house. And so when the signal hit me, two of the guys that were renting from me, we all got like hyper agitated, and like I got furious and my cackles went up, and I went and looked. And I saw that there was a van parked behind my 6 foot tall fence, and there was an antenna pointed right at the back of my porch. So I ran back there with a 2x4, and it was just instinct. I didn't care if I got arrested or whatever. And I knocked the antenna off of the van, and the van was like one of those like crazy, like, child molester vans. It had no windows.
Candy van.
And the three of us just started pushing it side to side and like getting the whole thing to go back. I knocked all the mirrors off of it. And then I saw cops at the end of the road, and I ran to go get the cops to say, hey, look, this, like, come check this out. As soon as I got to the cops and turned around, the van was gone. Nobody ever filed a police report against me. Nothing. I caused thousands of dollars of damage to that van. And it was because they were doing that op. And it was very interesting timing of when that op occurred with what I was actually dealing with. So that technology, that was through like multiple walls of a house, and it was hitting me and making me like crazy. Wow. And that was just a little van unit. Imagine what's out there.
So I was on my beach vacation with my family, and this was right about the time that Snowden came out. Now, I had put together a Five Eyes spy facility map on climateviewer.org, where I mapped out all of the NSA facilities, GCHQ, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, UK, OzCanZuckus. At the time, it was called Echelon. I wanted to map out Echelon. Didn't know it was called Prism or the Stone Ghost Network yet. All those terms were still top secret. So I map all this shit out. I'm sitting at the pool. We're at the Hilton, and my wife, my daughter, and I only had one daughter at the time. And I see this dude looking like Val Kilmer with the fucking aviators on and the slick back blonde hair. And I know, because paranoia plus experience equals I'm going to go fuck this guy up. So I'm seeing him, seeing us. I'm seeing this the entire time. We've been down there 2 hours. I said, you know what? My wife says we're going to go upstairs, change because we're going to eat. So fine. I gotta go handle a thing real quick. So I go over to him and I ask him, I said, so which is it? Are you a pervert, or which 3-letter agency do you work for? And he said, he smiled real big and he's like, you're Jim Lee, aren't you?
He's like, both.
Yeah. No, same time. Don't you know we're all perverts at the NSA? What do you think we look at all day long?
Be part of the club, man. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, come on down, baby. I'll show you some things you never can forget. After a 3-hour conversation, basically, whether, you know how things are in your memory, ego or not, he was agreeing with me. Maybe he was just, padding my ego, but he was basically saying, yeah, people are quitting the NSA left and right. Fine. But I basically made the argument, dude, if I can find this shit, on my computer at my house, you think the Russians and the Chinese don't already have maps of all these facilities too? So why are we really having this fucking conversation? That's not the interesting part. The interesting part is that night we're on the 12th floor, and I don't like heights anyway. Let's be real about that. But I will state for the record, I am not suicidal. I never have been. I never will be. You know why? Because Jimmy loved him some Jimmy.
Yeah, we love some Jimmy.
And because I had studied directed energy weapons for a long time before this, when I was still anonymous, nobody knew who the hell I was just resonated. Nobody knew who resonated was. Resonated was the bad motherfucker that when you saw him posting about you, that meant some bad shit was about to happen. And I said to myself, if I ever were to be attacked by a voice to skull, silent subliminal transmission system, any type of like directed energy weapon that, was a psychotronic weapon, something intended to what they call a voice of God weapon, how would I know? And the simple answer that I came up with was know thyself. You have to be able to recognize that this is not me, that my thoughts are not me, and that I should be able to recognize the difference between a thought that I'm having and a thought that was put there.
Right.
I agree with that.
I swear to God, this is what happened. I was standing on the balcony, and I started feeling this overwhelming anxiety first. Then I started feeling a little bit of vertigo and the need to look down. And then I started hearing a voice saying, jump. jump. You should just jump. Fuck this. And I admit, you go through your highs and lows, you know what I mean? But this is odd. Then it was the point that I realized that I had raised up on my toes and was looking straight down at the cement that I went, this is the thing. Yes, this is that moment that you talk to yourself about. And I literally just let my knees fall out from under me. And I hit the fucking deck. I crawled on my belly back in through the glass sliding door, and I shut that shit. I swear to God on my life that happened. And it's only happened to me one time. But I will never forget every millisecond of that. It was all of about a minute. But I will never forget it for the rest of my life, because it was clearly my own voice in my head saying shit that I would never say or do.
Damn.
That shit exists.
I believe that 100%. I mean, you saw a story in the news this week that they've recreated like a Pink Floyd song from imaging the brain and recording brain waves. So of course they could do the opposite of that. They can project those things into your mind. I totally believe that.
And here's to tie this all to the weather weaponry. So I've been in ayahuasca ceremonies for about 10 years. I was a psychonaut, pretty heavy. And I came in one I guess you'd say very large ceremony. I had this complete utter knowingness that the frequency range that ayahuasca had put us in that night was completely populated with synthetic imagery. It wasn't an organic experience. It was actually a frequency range. Our brain waves were all matching. We were like our own little harp. We were all biological array. Each one of us was like an antenna. We became a biological array. And then whatever agency was populating that space, they were populating that frequency range with the same story. And I knew it was synthetic. Like it was not, because most people, when they're psychonauts, they think, oh, what I'm experiencing because I'm in this expanded state, this is the truth. This is the height of it. And no. It's just like how they'll saturate an area with a static field and then hit it with the discordant frequency. They can do the same thing with thoughts.
Wow.
Your thoughts are nothing more than electrical currents passing through your physical brain, generating hormones. And if you think that they can't inject some electricity in there to make you do, I mean, the motherfucking psychos have literally been cutting the scalps off of living people, sticking electrodes in, and that makes a finger wiggle. The brain mapping project and all of the things that they have today.
Yes.
They literally have in the deepest recesses of the spy world, a way to implant a password in your brain that you do not know and that can be recalled simply by you typing randomly on a keyboard and prove that it's you. Riddle me that they can literally use your fucking head like a flash drive to store something that you don't even know. That is a new, well, it's new to me, probably not new to them, but these are the types of, deep technologies that we won't, they won't be readily available to the public in any time soon, but shit, they've been working on this for, the last 100 years. Look at, the other one that comes to mind is the Joint Strike Fighter and the helmet that actually can read thoughts. All right. So they've got military technology where it can actually read your thoughts and go ahead and start prepping things before you even touch the controls.
All this reminds me of school shooters. like how they can manipulate, how they can hear things in
Manchurian
their head.
candidate.
Yes.
And I'm like, it just sounds like that. If you're gonna use
Yes.
it, you would use it for something like that.
So say you're taking all these different pharmaceutical drugs, you're
Yeah.
eating the GMO food. All of that is programmable matter. You become so susceptible to these lower vibrational zones that they can populate in the way they can have, I guess you would say, deniability in the situation is with those types of situations, they can just broadcast the thought, and whoever takes it and runs with it, they can say, oh, that was their free will. Because they're always looking for plausible deniability.
That is crazy,
They're
dude.
always looking for plausible deniability.
Yep.
There was a CIA document called Electromagnetic Ghettos, and it literally laid out how they would want to create cell phone grids so that they could transmit frequencies to target individuals. And in the last 15 years that I've been public and on YouTube, I've had at least 500 people call me saying that they're targeted individuals. Now,
Obama phones.
Yep. But I immediately go through the usual. Are you experiencing extreme tinnitus because of oversaturation of EMF? Because you have your cell phone next to your bed, you leave it on all night, you have your Wi-Fi on, you leave it on all night. Are you just getting too much fucking EMF? Are you crazy, or are you actually a targeted individual? So I try to keep, I try to talk people off the ledge and say, have you ever tried earthing or grounding? Like take your shoes off, go outside and actually ground yourself to let this, excess electricity that you're building up return to the earth. And I've actually had several people, there you go, show them that thing.
What is it? He's got to talk so he can come up.
You're muted.
So everyone should get one of these little e-meters.
Yep.
They read frequency ranges all the way up from ELF waves all the way up to microwave. And these will tell you, like, when you're in a super saturated zone. We started off this whole conversation with talking about
what are those called?
E-meter.
This is a multimeter. It's a trimeter.
You want to get one that at least does frequency and power density.
Yes.
Because those are the two main things that you're concerned with. It's tougher to get one that can do ultra low frequencies or ELF because you typically need a really long antenna to be able to even capture ELF and ULF. But having something that shows what's called your specific absorption rate or power density plus frequency, that's the part where you get. I'm going to tell you, this is a simple little test. I want everybody who watches this show to try it. If you still have an AM radio in your car, put it on the lowest frequency AM station you can find that does not have a signal. It's going to sound like this. And as you drive around town, you're going to pass through stoplights. There's going to be overhead power lines. And when you hear this, that is that dirty, what we call electro smog. Yes. That is dirty electricity, ambient EMF, all of the above. We are swimming in a sea of ether and electromagnetic frequency.
Hence, all the new homes I build, I fill it with biochar in the plaster, because the biochar has so many, like, cajillions of like little micro mirrors for those signals that Jim's talking about that reflect that. And so we are in an absolute soup of all these frequencies. And when you have a material like this that's that diamagnetically charged and that reflective, and you have it in your paint and your plaster, and you ground your structure effectively, it makes all the difference with your body going into a rest state.
So you're saying, I mean, obviously my house is already built and it isn't mine, but you're saying if I buy paint and sprinkle a little bit on the paint, that would at least do something?
Yeah, I'll send you some links to, it's called Y Shield. It's on lessemf.com. It's a paint. It's very expensive paint. But if you want, I'll send you guys some biochar and you can just crush it up and mix it up into regular latex paint. It's the same thing.
Oh,
Go, bro. This episode has been nuts.
Everybody should learn how to create biochar.
It's so easy.
And maybe, and I'd like to just throw this out there since we're talking about biochar. Big ups to the people who invented terra preta and literally planted the Amazon.
Yeah.
You know about
Those
that.
are my Brazilian peeps.
So the idea that they literally, smoldered earth and created this super nutrient filled and then planted the rainforest. It's that.
Now, is this related to Shilajit?
No, Shilajit is a humic property. It's actually when things break down non-pyrolytically, they actually oxidize down. The thing that makes biochar is that the pyrolysis process, there's zero oxygen in to oxidate the carbon. That's why it has such a high diamagnetic charge. Shilajit is the exact opposite. It's excellent for you, but it's a condensate of things that have been oxidized all the way down. This is not a condensate.
Fascinating. Wow.
This is just the pure carbon matrix, the 666 matrix that makes up all life. But this is pyrolyzed, so it's actually acting like a geomagnet.
It's also considered a carbon sequestration technology. So for those who are into geoengineering, keep this in mind. While you're bitching about geoengineering in the sky, which you should, because mimicking volcanoes is fucking stupid, there are carbon sequestration technologies other than direct air capture or BECCS, which is a form of biochar. But biochar is on the menu for geoengineering or climate remediation as a more natural process for removing CO2 from the environment.
Yeah, I've developed a retort, which is how you make the biochar. That's super simple to make. Anybody can make it at their house. I'm releasing it September 4th. And it's you can find all the building materials in any local environment. It's not one of these like $500,000 retorts that people spend on the commercial level. Literally for $100 of materials, you could have a biochar reactor that lasts forever.
And I'd like to bring this back to Hawaii real quick. So one of the commonalities that I see between this biochar and the wildfire problem that I've talked to several people who live in Washington, Oregon, and California. And one of the things that this group of individuals have in common is that they want to go and clear the forests of downed trees and turn them into biochar. Mm-hmm. However, the local governments won't allow proper forestry cleanup to occur. Therefore, not only are they not saving the fucking environment, they're not allowing people to use downed trees that have huge burls that are worth thousands of dollars as furniture. They are not allowed to turn it into biochar or anything. They are saying, no, we're going to go and do hack and squirt, where they literally chop into a tree, spray freaking Roundup in the tree, and allow it to die standing up. So you get these big, forests full of, just standing timber and tinder on the ground. Oh. And this could all be used for a good purpose. I mean, my native ancestors would have never let anything go to waste. In fact, the Native Americans that live in the California forest and in Oregon, they're now talking about doing ritual burns because that was the way they kept the land sacred and safe, and it was the cycle of renewal. These politicians are creating the tinder boxes that are, leading to these massive fires.
Yeah, and that's how they push climate change. That's why all this is going on.
They blame climate change when you're the fucking climate changer.
Yep, 100%. That's unbelievable.
That's what I would say.
This has been amazing. This has been one of the greatest episodes we've ever done. I appreciate you guys so much. So one more time, Gardner, tell them where they could find you.
I'm at topherhq.com.
Okay. Links below. Jim Lee, one more time.
ClimateViewer.com or at ClimateViewer on YouTube.
All right, guys. This has been an amazing episode. This episode has made me an anarchist. I am no longer, I do no longer want to participate in government. I am out. Goodbye. I don't trust you. This is garbage. Guys, thank you so much. One more time, go to SamTripoli.com for all the dates. Check out our affiliate programs. We got some amazing people. If you guys, either you guys, Jim or Gardner, you want to do any affiliate programs with us, we'd love to work with you guys. Anything possible is great. And please stay tuned to hear some of the highlights of some of my other shows. They're available right now. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. Changed my view of everything. And enjoy the highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim.
This is how big the Joe Rogan experience is, that Eddie Bravo mentioned Dana Marshall on the show and her phone just won't stop lighting up.
Did he? Why did he mention her?
Because we're doing gigs this weekend. This past weekend in Connecticut, New York. Thank you guys. You were great.
Well, what context did she come up? Just
that she got us the gig, which she didn't. Luis J. Gomez did, but
that's so funny.
Eddie doesn't know that.
That's funny.
So funny. I'm flying in. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. We record this before the Monday before, so I haven't done the gigs yet. So, but I'm going to act like they were great. They were amazing.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because we're leaving early.
Where are they again? I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention, I guess.
Connecticut, and then Sunday is New York.
Okay.
So
and Eddie was on what Fight Companion or what was it?
Doing Fight Companion. And he, Joe was nice enough to let him push his dates. And he pushed the dates and he said Dana got us a gig, which is fine. But her phone was blowing up with people telling her that her name got mentioned on Joe Rogan. That's how big that show is.
Wait. So Lewis got you the gig, but then you told Lewis you were going to be there the wrong day?
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Dude, brain fart.
What, you thought you could do a show or something of Lewis's?
Yeah, I thought I could do last Friday. And then I realized I'm in this Friday. And then I'm not.
But he should know you weren't in that because he got you the gig, right?
No, but he got me connected with the club.
Okay. He got you hooked up. I got you. Okay.
Which I love.
I got it. I understand.
So who was I talking to? Off the Grid Ryan today. He was telling me about all the shit going on at Skankfest. And
is it going on?
Yeah, it's
now.
No, not right now. It's back. I think it's October in Las Vegas. But I guess Loveline's going to be live there.
Is that show still on?
No, they're bringing it back.
Like Drew and who?
Adam Carolla, I think.
Really? The OG guys. Okay.
Yeah.
I would love
that. Which is great, right?
That would be great.
I have a date to do Dr. Drew's show.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, if there's anybody Dr. Drew needs to talk to, it's this guy, right?
Yeah.
And all my weirdness. Johnny,
wait, are you saying you're going to do that or?
No, I'm not going to be.
No, Drew's show.
No, I'm doing Dr. Drew.
You definitely are.
I have a date.
Oh, really?
To do it.
That's a cool, man. That's cool. That's a good show. I like him. I don't have any problem with that guy. I like him a lot.
I do too. I like him a lot.
I think he's a straight shooter. He gets a lot of shit from people on the left for being kind of, I don't know.
Because he's not just deep throating the corporate narrative.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of his, actually, for that reason.
Well, he came out very early about, hey, man, everyone chill out about COVID.
Yeah.
And he got a lot of stuff. I feel like he got a couple calls going, hey, you better watch yourself and what you're saying. And now he's been championing the cause. Yeah. But I'm excited to be on the show.
No, that'll be great for you, dude. You're like the perfect guest for that show. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm like a drug addict, sex addicted.
You've seen his entire job, but from the other side.
Yeah, 100%.
You know every aspect.
I'm his perfect specimen.
It's like the only other guy that would have fit perfectly was Tom Sizemore, and he's got rest in peace. You know?
But it's very interesting, Johnny, because I've been thinking a lot about what you said where I can't be still.
Yeah.
So, as you know, I take 3 martial arts. Johnny,
I do know that. I heard it.
If you had to guess, how many podcast episodes have I recorded since we did what was it? Did I do one early Wednesday? I'm trying to think.
Well, yeah, we did.
No.
We did tinfoil hat.
No, before tinfoil hat. Oh, wow. I just realized I did a Conspiracy Social Club on Wednesday.
And then 2 tinfoil hat episodes.
Yeah. Then I did.
What's the question, though? You want me to guess a number?
Guess how many episodes of podcasting I did in the last 2 days.
Okay. Well, I know of 4.
Yeah.
And you just said another one, which is 5. So I'm going to guess 6.
I've done 8 podcasts.
That's ridiculous.
8 podcasts.
Okay, so let's run this down real quick. Okay, so the first one was Conspiracy Social Club, then 2 tinfoils on Wednesday.
Because Brian is in Colombia on a speaking gig. I don't even know. That sounds so shady to me.
What?
By the way, Brian Callen, love him so much. Surrounded. He's just surrounded by conspiracy theorists now.
That's great. Good.
He's just surrounded,
his
bro.
His Rogan was really good.
Yeah, well, I love him, dude. I do wonder how long the show will go because he's just surrounded. And at some point, he's going to be like, I lost all the time.
You got to start throwing some, you got to do some kayfabe, dude. You got to throw some fights.
People say I can't. Humanity's at stake. I can't.
Okay, okay. Conspiracy Social Club, 2 tinfoils.
Yes.
Did you do any more Wednesday?
Yes.
What else?
I did the Stevie Weeby show.
Stevie Weeby. Okay.
So that's 4.
That's 4. So 4 on Wednesday.
Yes.
And then today I know you did a Cash Daddies because we got that move.
Conspiracy Social Club.
You did another Conspiracy Social Club today. Is that Dylan. Twice a week now?
Yeah.
Okay. And
so
then,
I did that.
Has
with
that always
Dylan.
been twice a week?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Conspiracy Social Club.
Okay.
Then I did Bruce Buffer.
Wait, when it's just Dylan, what do you do? Who's the straight man?
Dylan. Dylan is a communist.
Okay. Is it always the second one with him, or is it usually Brian because he's out of town?
Usually Brian's there,
Okay.
but if he's not there, we got to do it, and it's still a great show.
Okay, so Conspiracy Social Club,
Yeah.
Cash Daddies,
Yeah. Nope, you missed one.
and then this. But
Bruce Buffer.
Bruce Buffer show.
I did Bruce Buffer show today.
Where was that? Where'd you get from
Over Zoom.
Over Zoom. How was that?
It's great. Bruce is great. I love talking to him.
I don't know much about that guy.
And his co-host TJ is fucking cool as shit.
Documentary about him and his brother.
TJ invited me to the next combat jiu-jitsu to go in there and sit in the booth with him.
Really?
I don't know if he's being serious about that, but I do jiu-jitsu now, so I'm part of the community.
Those fights are entertaining. I really like those.
They seem scary to me.
Yeah, they're
jiu-jitsu
intense,
with
dude.
strikes.
They're entertaining.
That's intense.
Very intense, bro.
That's intense,
Yeah.
dude. You're trying to get the guy down. Bang, bang. That's
It's like early days of UFC.
Johnny,
kinda.
this is my 8th show. I'm trying to figure out something I haven't done.
Why did you want to do this? I mean, you chose this time and everything.
Johnny,
too. Why didn't we do it like Sunday? I feel bad
because
for you.
I'm in New York on Sunday.
Even Sunday, you're not back Sunday night.
I'm not back Sunday. I'm not back till Monday.
You poor fella.
Oh, bro, I'm so exhausted. And the reason I bring this up,
I'll take it easy on you.
I've decided to fly into New York tomorrow because Eddie's like, let's get in there early. Well, I realized that Eddie just told me that one of his students is in some big jiu-jitsu tournament in New York and he wants to make it to there. So I'm going to fly to New York and most likely just sit in my hotel room because I'm so tired. All right, guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our affiliate program on SamTripoli.com. I'm working with some really wonderful people trying to get you the best of the best that I think is important for you in the upcoming zombie apocalypse, okay? So we have, if you're looking for gold and silver, who knows what's going to happen with the fractional reserve banking system? It could collapse at any moment, maybe in August. We don't know. If you go to buy gold and silver, go to SamTripoli.com, SamTripoli.gold. You can join the Wise Wolf program, and they will ship out to you monthly installments of precious metals. I do it every month. I'm getting sent precious metals, a lot of silver, some gold. I love doing it. It's a great way to stock up on precious metals. Aqua cures hydrogen gas. I've had people hit me up, tell me they love doing it and how it's really working for them. I have it at home. I have to hook it up. It's a lot of stuff I'm working on, but I'm going to put it together so I can start breathing that sweet, sweet, sweet hydrogen, man. Give me that sweet hydrogen. But click on that. You can use the promo code right there. It says it right there on the banner. Use that. Joel Staley is a good friend of mine, and he helped me lose a lot of weight. I am now doing a 75 hard, leading into going back into fasting. I'm training my body, doing fasting. Joel Staley has a proven system that will help you lose weight. Again, just click the banner, use the promo code, and Joel Staley will work with you. He's going to help you, if you do it right, lose 25 to 50 pounds in 90 days. That's like half a person right there. Harley Ray. We love, yay. Yeah. We love the Harley Ray people. We love them. Look at that size of that. Was that crystal right there? Holy
dude,
crap.
I got a ton of these for she sent them to us for Broken Salmon. They're great, man.
Look at those. Damn, bro. They're huge, dude. They're huge. I know XG thinks there's something else.
I was about to say, careful with that, ladies.
Yeah, okay. Going back. Again, if you just use...
God, those are big. What? I mean, that's like her whole forearm.
Yeah. Easy, guys. Easy. They listen to the show. Their parents listen, too. Please stop. But if you use Swarm 15, you get 15% off anything you're buying. And finally, Legal Shield. If you're looking for some legal help, they do a monthly thing. And with that, you can they got different law firms they work with that can help you sign up and get some legal help on certain things. So check that out. Again, Legal Shield, they're there to help, and that's our affiliate. So all right, check it out. Help us help you. Help us help you.
We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hat.